Hello folks, welcome to Spoon with Nature. I'm Gary. It's raining outside off and on today, so there's not a whole lot to do out there. So I thought I'd take this time and just go over building a fire. It seems like a simple thing to do, but some people struggle. So I'm going to try to bring as much information as I can to you and to help you as best I can. The real work is up to you, but what we're going to do, we're going to start with the definition of a fire. There it is. Can you see it? A fire is a rapid oxidation of combustible material, releasing energy in the form of heat and light. That's important to know. Keep that in mind the whole time you're doing this. The rapid oxidation of a combustible material, releasing energy in the form of heat and light. Rapid oxidation, combustible material, heat and light. Those are important. So, a fire is made up of what they call the triangle. Which now we're going to pictures. Oh yeah. Okay, so you got a triangle here. Now to have a fire in the middle, you got to have a heat source, you got a fuel source, and you have to have an oxidizer, which usually is oxygen. There we go. We'll shorten that. So you take any one of those three out, you will not have a fire. That's how a fire extinguisher works. It removes the oxygen from that triangle. So without that, you don't have a fire. Now, you also have to have a fuel and heat. It doesn't say about a flame or anything, but heat. So that's another thing to keep in mind, because you're going to have to use all three of those to have a fire. Now, the important thing to remember about a fire is the heat and the oxygen and the fuel. So, let's say you're out in the woods, you're going to build a fire, but all you're finding is sticks, you know, and you're not sure what to do. Now, if they're wet, that's a problem, because in order for a piece of wood to burn, it has to go through stages. A piece of wood itself will not burn. It has to be reduced to a carbon gas, carbon dioxide, a combination of carbon, hydrogen, and an oxygen, carbon dioxide. Until it makes that fuel, it won't burn. That's why when you put a match to something, you'll see it discolor, you'll see smoke, and then you'll see flame. So a piece of wood is mainly carbon and it's cellulite and oxygen. I mean, it's pretty basic. So that's why when you make a fire, this reduces to charcoal. Carbon. When you have a fire that's left over, what doesn't burn of the wood, the minerals, which is also part of the wood, is reduced to ash, and the carbon is what was actually the wood. So when you have a good fire is when you wake up in the morning and it's all white ash. There's no carbon left in there, there's no charcoal. So you made a good hot fire. That's an important thing to remember. Okay, demonstration time. We got an ordinary stick match here, and you're going to notice no matter how I turn that match, that flame will always be pointing up. See, look at that. I can do it with my left hand. It doesn't go in reverse. It's always pointing up no matter how we turn it. The flame will always go up, the heat will always rise. And you got to remember that, because that's important. I see people trying to start a fire with something this size, you know. That's a pretty good chunk of wood there. That's about 5 inches. So they'll throw this on there and have a nice looking pile and dump all the camp fuel they have. I have kerosene on hand. Might empty a vehicle sitting nearby of gasoline, and they probably still won't have a fire. So what you got to remember is you want to start small and you want to go big, you know. So it's kind of like you're moving out of your parents' basement. And you don't start out with a mansion. You want to start out with a trailer and maybe go to an apartment. But you want to go on, you know, and move up until you got the mansion. So same philosophy here. We don't start out with the biggest piece of what we want. That's what we want to end with. And we'll start out with something like this. And this is way smaller than a pencil. Okay, you can pick these up off the forest floor. Try not to get any that's wet. That's just going to add to the work. If all you can find is wet, you just take your knife and you shave that bark off. what you want is dry wood. You know, the thing about the heat, and that's important, if you have wet wood, first thing you have to do is dry it out before it'll even burn. So that's even more heat you have to have on there. Scrape the bark off, you get down to the dry wood, and then just break it in pieces. Okay, so we got really small pieces, and we just keep going. What I like to do is I get about a handful. That's where I start my fire, and then I'll go to something a little bigger, and I'll start building a teepee over the top of that. And the good thing about that is that heat, as that fire burns inside, the heat raises, warms that wood up above it, and then you're going to have combustion. You have to get anything you burn has to be above its flash point. So you just can't lay a match on there. I got another demonstration, and this is another good one. This time we're using 2 matches. Yeah, we're getting crazy here. 2 matches. We're going to light one. Okay, not using the head. I'm putting that match under it. Have we noticed that it's not burning? Okay, here, let's get a bigger flame. Fire's going up, bigger flame. Won't burn. Let's put that on top now. There's a fire already. Pretty close. So my point of that is, I see a lot of people put the wood down, put the fuel on top, put the paper on top, everything that's going to burn is on top, and they light it, and it starts out real good, it looks nice, and they're dancing around, Lord of the Rings all style on it, and then the fire goes away. Because you got to face facts that this is not going to catch this on fire off the bat. Okay, we have to redo that a little bit. Alright, so you're starting out with this, and you're just going to break these off. These are the smallest things I can find. Good piece of maple, and breaking it off. That's going to make my fire. I'm not starting out with the logs. We want the little pieces. And if you need a fire quick, the more of the small stuff you can find, the quicker you go to fire. If all you can find is big stuff, and you're wanting to really impress your girlfriend, what you need to do is make a feather stick out of it. And all that entails is you take a knife and you just start cutting little slivers of wood into that. And you're going to push it all toward the end, and then you have a feather stick. This piece here will not light with a match. You put it on here, that's going to go up. So that's important, because what you're doing is you're reducing the mass of the stick into small pieces. Now how does that work? Because the smaller piece takes less heat to ignite. Because once again, you have to turn this into carbon dioxide to get a flame. So I hope this is making sense to you, because I feel like Bill Nye right now. Bill Nye the Science Guy. So you got to have heat, and the more heat you make, the more heat you're going to have. You're going to generate it. It's a perpetual motion. As long as you have fuel, oxygen, and heat, that will continue to build. So the more heat that you can put in there, it's going to draw more oxygen in, and then it's going to consume that fuel. Now, a lot of people don't understand that this stick doesn't burn. But, you can put gas on it and you can light it. It's not the stick that's burning. Now, the fuel on it will burn, the fumes will, not the fuel itself. And it's the same process with a piece of wood. The wood has to be heated up. It creates the carbon dioxide, and once that's released, that's what burns. That's where you see your flame. That's where you get your heat. So a lot of people don't understand that, but it's a very important fact to know. You cannot just put a match on here and you have a torch. Despite what Indiana Jones shows you, it doesn't work like that. So it's just a slow process, and you got to build on it as you go. Okay, there's a lot of things that help you with this process. You've seen a video of this, a quick candle made out of a shotgun shell. Makes a really great fire starter. And there's been once recently that I can remember that I had a hypothermia, and it was shocking. It was not what I expected. And when you're in that condition, you're not using all your senses. It's like the fear gets you, and you hurry making irrational decisions. And so something like this would be very handy. You like this, there's all kinds of fire starters. You can get them in the waterproof containers now, just little envelopes, you open them up. I suggest you get those and keep them on hand, because there's something psychological about a fire when you're in that condition that's going to calm you right down. So this is something great to keep in hand. I've got another video coming about fire starters, so I'm not going to get real in depth on this right now. But just know that there are a lot of aids out there to help people with a fire, but you still have to have a good foundation of what to do once you get that fire material running. And the whole thing is escalating that fire, not starting at the finish line. You're starting at the start line, and you're going to go. Now, you can't sit back and relax. Once you get the little stuff on there and it's starting to burn, don't sit there and admire the flame for a little bit, because that's a critical point where you need to start adding the larger stuff. Start stepping it up. Like I said, we're starting out. This is, I don't know, it's bigger than a toothpick, but not by much. And then we're kicking it on up, and then we got the pencil size, and then we got the thumb size, and then we're just going to keep going, and we're going to build that pile over that fire that's already burning. Now what I like to do is a TP fire, because it leans on each other and it doesn't fall down and collapse on the fire until you got a really good one going. You gotta be able to feed it oxygen. That's an important thing. If you put a lot of like newspaper, I mean, you can even do that. You can put a fire out with a piece of newspaper, because you throw it on there real tight or real high, and it starves it of oxygen, and you're done. No fire, just little embers. So it's going to take practice. You're going to have to try it. I have a lot of fun. I had a great childhood. Wow, my parents only knew. But I learned really young how to start a fire. I got to, and I still can, start it with a match and no paper, just match and stick. And it's all about getting that fire set up right, getting it prepped, and letting it feed itself. So we're going to go into different styles of fires later. Like I said, the TP fire, that's one of my favorites. You got the log fire, log cabin fire. I mean, there's probably 30 different kinds. We'll hit the basics. But what this video is for is just to help you get a fire, so at that point you can sit back and decide what kind of fire you're going to make. So I hope this was helpful. And if you got anything to add, tips, techniques, things that you do, just put it down on the bottom. I think there's probably one or two people that read this, and it could help them. I always read it. See, I know you're guaranteed one. Oh boy. But yeah, this is just to help you get it in your head, what it takes to make a fire, and the recipe for making a fire. So you just need to go out in the backyard, put your kids in the house, and practice as much as you can. Number one, get that fire going up, get the heat going up, have the fuel ready, and make sure it gets lots of oxygen. If you can stick with those fundamentals, I think you're going to do pretty good. So I'm Gary, Spinning with Nature. If there's anything else you need to know, YouTube's a big place. Thank you for watching.